Have you ever received a creepy, cryptic letter addressed to you, not from a friend or loved one, but from a cold, calculating killer? In the late 1960s and early 1970s, the San Francisco Bay Area was gripped by fear as a serial killer terrorized the community. This wasn't your typical criminal operating in the shadows. He reveled in the notoriety, taunting police and the media with cryptic messages and threats. It was a serial killer who called himself the Zodiac. Throughout this video, we'll delve into the chilling details of the Zodiac Killer case, explore the cryptic messages, analyze the suspects, and discover the latest advancements in forensic technology that may finally crack this decades-old mystery. The saga of the Zodiac Killer began in the quiet, unsuspecting town of Vallejo, California, in 1968. The tranquil setting was shattered when young high school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday became the first confirmed victims of the Zodiac's brutal spree. Their lives were tragically cut short while parked on a lover's lane, a serene spot that turned into a scene of horror that fateful night. Betty Lou Jensen, just 16 years old, and her companion David Faraday, 17, had innocently chosen this spot for a romantic evening. Little did they know they were being watched by a shadowy figure lurking in the darkness. The killer struck swiftly and without mercy, firing shots that ended their lives abruptly. Their deaths marked the beginning of a series of murders that would haunt Northern California for years to come. As 1969 unfolded, the Zodiac Killer's malevolent presence intensified, marked by a series of brazen and provocative actions that further mystified and terrified the public. Following his initial murders, the Zodiac Killer began to engage in a disturbing game with the media and law enforcement, escalating the terror he instilled in the region. One of the most notorious aspects of the Zodiac's modus operandi was his taunting correspondence with local newspapers. His letters were not just a means of claiming responsibility, but also a method to publicly mock the authorities and media, flaunting his apparent invincibility. Among the most infamous of these letters was the one sent to the San Francisco Chronicle on July 31, 1969. It was here that the Zodiac included a chilling message alongside a cryptic cipher. "Dear editor, I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner, because I now have enough slaves to work for me where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise." This letter, like many others, was designed to provoke and unsettle. But the Zodiac's impact extended beyond his words. He also included a cipher known as the 408 symbol cipher, which was a complex and intricate puzzle meant to challenge and mock those attempting to catch him. The puzzle became an obsession for cryptographers and amateur sleuths alike. It wasn't until July 1969 that a pair of amateur codebreakers, Donald and Betty Harden, managed to solve it. Their success revealed a message that was both taunting and revealing, further deepening the public's fascination with the case. The Zodiac Killer's correspondence did not stop with just letters and ciphers. He also sent postcards with cryptic messages and a Halloween card in October 1970, which was a macabre celebration of his killings. Each communication was a deliberate attempt to instill fear and maintain his notoriety. The years from 1970 to 1974 marked a period of intensified fear and uncertainty as the Zodiac Killer continued his spree of violence across Northern California. During this time, several more attacks were attributed to the elusive perpetrator, each one adding to the growing sense of public panic and frustration among law enforcement agencies. One of the notable incidents during this period occurred on September 27, 1969, when the Zodiac Killer struck again, this time targeting a young couple, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard at Lake Berryessa. In a brazen display of audacity, the killer approached them wearing an eerie hooded costume and proceeded to stab them multiple times. He then left behind a chilling message scrawled on Hartnell's car door, detailing his previous murders and claiming credit for them. The last confirmed communication from the Zodiac Killer came in 1974, when he sent a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle containing a cipher. This letter marked a sudden halt in his correspondence, leaving investigators puzzled as to whether the killer had ceased his activities or simply changed his methods of communication. The hunt for the elusive Zodiac Killer proved to be a labyrinthine challenge for law enforcement. Despite the killer's audacious taunting through letters sent to newspapers, deciphering his true identity remained an insurmountable task. Key suspects emerged over the years, each raising hopes of closure only to face setbacks due to insufficient evidence. Arthur Lee Allen, one of the most infamous suspects, came under intense scrutiny, but was ultimately cleared due to inconclusive DNA tests and alibis. Richard Gaikowski, a journalist with potential ties to the case, similarly generated interest but lacked substantial evidence linking him definitively to the Zodiac's crimes. The complexities of the case were compounded by the Zodiac's deliberate efforts to mislead investigators, from his use of ciphers and letters to potential false leads planted within his communications. Each dead end underscored the frustrations of law enforcement and the public alike, who yearned for resolution in the face of such brazen criminality. In the labyrinthine investigation of the Zodiac Killer, numerous theories have surfaced over the decades, each attempting to decode the elusive patterns and motivations behind the notorious serial killer's actions. One prevailing theory suggested the possibility of multiple perpetrators acting under the guise of the Zodiac. This hypothesis emerged from the distinct variations in the Zodiac's letters and ciphers, which some experts believed indicated the involvement of more than one individual. This theory added layers of complexity to an already intricate case, challenging investigators to reconcile the divergent styles and messages attributed to the Zodiac. Another compelling angle explored potential links between the Zodiac Killer and other infamous cases of the era. Speculations ranged from connections to unsolved murders in nearby regions to hypotheses linking the Zodiac's cryptic messages to broader cultural or political motives. Psychological theories also emerged, attempting to profile the mind behind the Zodiac's chilling communications. Analysts delved into the content and tone of the Zodiac's letters, searching for clues to his personality traits, possible grievances, and motivations for targeting specific victims. These profiles aim to provide insights into the psychological makeup of the killer, offering potential avenues for understanding his behavior and anticipating his next moves. Eyewitness accounts emerged sporadically throughout the Zodiac's spree, offering glimpses into fleeting moments of interaction with the mysterious killer. These reports varied widely in detail and credibility, from individuals claiming to have encountered the Zodiac directly to those who witnessed suspicious behavior near crime scenes. Composite sketches based on eyewitness descriptions provided visual aids in the search for the Zodiac Killer. These sketches, created with the cooperation of witnesses, attempted to capture the elusive features and demeanor of the suspect. However, discrepancies among sketches highlighted the challenges of relying solely on eyewitness testimony, as interpretations and memories varied widely among those interviewed. The public dissemination of profiles and eyewitness sketches fueled speculation and public interest in the case, prompting an influx of tips and leads from individuals convinced they had identified the Zodiac Killer. Each reported sighting or alleged identification added layers of complexity to an already convoluted investigation, requiring exhaustive scrutiny to separate credible information from unsubstantiated claims. The sudden cessation of Zodiac Killer activities in 1974 marked a pivotal yet perplexing moment in the enduring saga surrounding one of America's most enigmatic serial killers. After his last confirmed communication in 1971, where he sent a letter boasting about his score and referencing an explosive device he claimed to have hidden, the Zodiac Killer seemed to vanish into obscurity. Despite sporadic claims of Zodiac sightings and the occasional dubious communication, the systematic pattern of violence and correspondence that had defined his reign of terror abruptly halted. Theories abound regarding the Zodiac's disappearance. Some speculate that he may have been incarcerated for an unrelated crime, institutionalized, or even died. Others suggest he simply chose to retire from his macabre activities, perhaps satisfied with the chaos and fear he had instilled in the public consciousness. Without fresh clues or communications from the Zodiac himself, the investigation into his identity and motives stagnated. Is everything really so hopeless? Not really. Zodiac Killer, possibly identified. A group of more than 40 independent investigators called the Case Breakers have identified Gary Francis Post as the notorious Zodiac Killer. Post was an Air Force veteran and painted houses for a living. He was arrested in 2016 for charges of domestic violence. He was diagnosed with dementia and ruled incompetent to stand trial. He died in 2018. He attacked 7 people and claimed the lives of 5 of them, though he claimed to have killed 37 in total. The letters included information that only the killer would have known, and a symbol of a circle with a cross through it, which became the killer's calling card. The killer frequently criticized the police for not being able to catch him. The letters also contained 4 ciphers, which the killer claimed would reveal his identity. Cipher Z408 was cracked by a high school teacher and his wife soon after it was published. 51 years later in 2020, Cipher Z340 was cracked by multiple code breakers. Ciphers Z13 and Z32 remain unsolved. Expert coders believe that these ciphers may be impossible to crack since they are so short. There are 7 confirmed victims of the Zodiac Killer, 5 who died and 2 who survived. His confirmed victims were 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen, 17-year-old David Faraday, 19-year-old Mike Mageau, 22-year-old Darlene Farron, 20-year-old Brian Hartnell, 22-year-old Cecilia Shepard, and 30-year-old Paul Stein. Mageau and Hartnell were the only survivors. With new evidence of a possible DNA match, affidavits, the killer's personal photos, and multiple eyewitnesses, the team's former FBI agents have described it as irrefutable evidence towards Post being the famed killer. Although there are only 7 confirmed Zodiac victims, there was one murder in 1962 and one in 1966 that predate the known Zodiac killings and are believed to be his first victims. The murder of Ray Davis in 1962 is thought to be the work of the Zodiac Killer because the killer called the police prior to the murder and said he would be committing a baffling crime. After the murder, he called the police again to warn of future attacks.
Vallejo Police Department.
I want to report a double murder.
May I have your
You
name
go 1
and where
mile
you're calling?
east on Columbus Parkway, public park. You'll find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye.
The killer used 2 guns, a .22 caliber and long rifle. A .22 caliber weapon was used in the known Zodiac killings as well. The murder of Sherry Jo Bates in 1966 is thought to be the work of the Zodiac Killer because of multiple pieces of evidence tied to the case. The investigators discovered a broken Timex wristwatch. This watch was believed to have been purchased at a military base. Post was an Air Force veteran who at the time was being treated for a gun-related injury at March Air Force Base, just 15 minutes from the crime scene. A heel print was also found at the crime scene. This print was confirmed to be a size 6 military-style boot. This is the same size and style of prints found at confirmed Zodiac killings, and also matches the size and style of Post's boots. The coroner who performed the autopsy of Bates found 4 brown hairs that belonged to the killer. Post had brown hair. However, brown hair is common, so this evidence is not as strong. A letter from the killer named The Confession was sent to the local police department 1 month after Bates' murder. While this letter was typed instead of written like the rest of the confirmed Zodiac letters, it had similar vocabulary, including the misspelling of the word twitch, which the killer spelled as twitch. This letter is not confirmed to be from the Zodiac Killer. While the police department that handles the Bates murder did not believe that this was the work of the Zodiac, the FBI referred to Bates as the Zodiac Killer's 6th victim in a memo released in 1975. A man named Will, who refers to himself as an outlaw turned Zodiac whistleblower, claims to have been a part of Post's Zodiac posse and groomed him into a killing machine. After escaping from the killer's posse, Will became homeless. He went to the authorities, but they would not give him the time of day. That's when the case breakers stepped in and retired Captunar. Hans Smits took him in to support him. He had a great side. He just didn't have a conscience. He could kill indiscriminately, Will said about Post in an interview with the case breakers. Will said that Post would have to kill to feel better, even if it was just small animals. Will also claimed to have witnessed Post burying murder weapons. He has given the location of these weapons to the case breakers. Post's former daughter-in-law reported that 2 of his goons came after her when she divorced his son. They threatened, harassed, and even assaulted her until she moved to another state. In the 1970s, Post and his wife babysat a girl named Gwenny. They taught her how to operate firearms and took her out to the woods almost every day. Gwenny noticed violent and careless behavior in Post, especially towards his wife. Gwenny reconnected with Post's former wife, who was 75-year-old and in assisted living. "I'm sorry that I didn't tell the cops about Zodiac past," his former wife said in the conversation with Gwenny. The most damning evidence for Post being the famed Zodiac Killer are the scars on his forehead. In the official police sketch of the killer, there are multiple distinguished scars on his forehead. Photos of Post show that he has scars on his forehead that fit the size, shape, and location of the scars in the police sketch. Law enforcement are still skeptical to consider this a conclusion to this half-century-long case. Investigation into the Zodiac Killer remains open and unsolved, San Francisco FBI official statement said. While this is not the true end to the case of the uncrackable killer, this is the closest the case has been to finally being solved. Thank you for watching the video. If you have questions, write them in the comments. And also check out our channel, we have some more interesting videos.